Temple Community Concerns lecture series. We're excited about today's lecture series, The Making of a Nigger. That's pretty bold to have anything with that topic, but we're going to keep it real. Bishop Milton, if you don't mind, would you open us up in prayer, sir?
Let us pray. Oh, Mother, Father God, we thank you for allowing us to gather in this space, to discern, oh God, that which is real, that which is truth, to acknowledge the past, to reach back into it, to fetch that which is good and bring it forward, oh God. But that which is not of you, the evil, the hatred, the anger, all the things abounding around us that are not of you, oh God, we ask now that you remove it from us, cast it away from us, that we might live in peace and love and joy, hope and love, and love, and love. And for all of our people, both in this house and viewing us, who are seeking the truth to move forward into the new day that you have promised, oh God. We pray now that this lecture series be a blessing unto us, that the information that be brought to us be revelatory to us, and that as we walk in the light of Jesus the Christ, that we somehow or another find the boldness, the courage to be able to tell the truth, to speak the truth, to listen to the truth, oh God, and to act in spirit and in truth. We ask now that you bless our speaker of the hour, Brother Takuna El Shabazz. Bless this great institution, the African American Catholic Congregation, and our great leader, Archbishop J. Augustus Stallings, all of our ministers and our lay people throughout all over this world. We ask now, God, that you bless us. And as this message goes forward, may every ear that needs to hear, let it be open. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, and in the name of all of our ancestors, we pray. Amen.
Okay, again, thank you for coming out and weathering the storm. You know how we are when the weather's bad, we kind of stay in, but definitely want to thank you guys for coming out. Brother Takuna El Shabazz has been an icon in this community with much knowledge, an elder, and I'll let him tell you a little bit more about himself. But without further ado, Brother Takuna El Shabazz, our lecturer for today. Brother Takuna.
Thank you, Sister Margie, and thank all of you for being here. The topic today, the making of a nigger, has not been my choice. So I want you to know that it is bold, and I'm pleased that I have an opportunity to speak on that topic. And I think that it shows progression in our community that is being expressed here at Imani Temple to open doors on discussions that are taboo in many circles, because we want to speak on things without much knowledge, and we get emotional. I am Takuna El Shabazz. I am the president and founder of CCBE, Conscientious Council of Black Elders, and I'm also the outreach minister here at Imani Temple. I am a Muslim in the name of Allah. I believe that there is one God, and I believe that Muhammad is his messenger. I believe in the work of the minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And I'm also inspired by the work of George Augustus Stallings, Archbishop of Imani Temple and founder. I am a respecter and a student of all worthy men and women that speaks the truth, especially in this day and time. My knowledge or my understanding of what I think is my knowledge come from those great ones before me. So as we approach this topic, the making of a nigger, I want you to be comfortable, but I want to be honest and I want to be direct. And I don't want you to feel uncomfortable about the use of the word nigger and the many times that you will hear it tonight. I just can't believe that you would come to a lecture that's entitled The Making of a Nigger and then get squeamish about the use of the word. So we need to, as Sister Margie said, keep it real. I also want to extend acknowledgement and thanks to Sister Margie for her work. She has been tenacious in terms of making sure that these lectures monthly do exist. And I also want to let her handle the flack if I get some from this lecture. No, sister, we can handle it. Okay. What's the goal? The goal is to expose the process of niggerization of black people and its effect on their education, political, economic, social, and spiritual growth, or lack of it. I want to sound the alarm for the need to deniggerize as black people for true freedom, justice, and equality. What's the objectives? The objectives in which we're going to try to achieve tonight is we want to help guide the audience, that's you, to conduct a more realistic self-analysis on how the process of niggerization has affected you. We want to present a realistic process for black people to begin deniggerizing. We want to define and make clear the negative impact of white colonialism, white supremacy, which are the mothers and fathers of niggerization and racism. Now I'm going to share with you just a few terms that you may not remember them all, but I want to introduce them now so that when we get to a part of my presentation, I don't want the concept to be new to you. Well, first of all, nigger. Nigger is used as an insulting and contemptuous term for a black person. Nigger is one of the most controversial, complicated words in English. It is a hateful slur for blacks, but many blacks use the word in a harmless way, so they think. White supremacy. The belief that white people constitute a superior race and should therefore dominate society, typically to the exclusion or the detriment of other racial and ethnic groups, and particularly black or Jewish people. Colonialism. Colonialism is the policy or practice of acquiring full or partial political control over another country, occupying it with settlers, and exploiting it economically. Niggerization, the usual systematic act of dehumanizing black people. Racism, a belief that race is the primary sign or signal of human traits and capacities that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race, racial prejudice or discrimination. Those terms will come into play as I get into the body of the presentation tonight. A living thing, no matter what it is, the Creator has created a design and an order for every living thing on the earth. Any living thing that is taken out of its natural state, you will create something unnatural, something destructive, something different, and in most times, you will shorten the life of that living thing. If you take a plant whether it's a plant, a fruit plant, whether it's a plant that produces flowers, whether it's a plant that produces just seeds, if by nature that plant calls for being in direct sunlight, and you, for whatever reason, whether it's for lack of education, lack of sensitivity toward the plant, whether it's because of aesthetic purposes, or simply because you just don't know and don't care. If you take that plant, and you take that plant that requires direct sunlight, and you take it and you put it in a shady place, that plant has now been sanctioned to death. Anything that that plant naturally can produce will be retarded. If it produces anything, you will not have the full potential of that plant's growth visible. So in time, that plant life will be shortened and it will die, because the natural nature of the plant requires direct sunlight. And if what the plant needs by the Creator's design, it is not given, you are determining the death of that plant. So I asked a question to myself as I was preparing this presentation. Have black people have been colonized in such a way where we are now a nation of colonized niggers? If so, when and why and where? Oftentimes we might read a footnote in a history book and it says that we were slaves taken from Africa, and it was 1619. You were taken from the shores of Africa. You didn't come here on a ship for vacation. You didn't come here on a plane. They didn't put you up in the Hilton, and you didn't get a part-time job at Motel 6 or any of the corporate structures that are here in America. You came here because you were to be free labor. You did not come here in 1619 as they told you for the first time. You came here actually as an organized group in 1555. Why is that important? We know we've been stripped from the shores of Africa. And they tell you 1619, but they don't tell you nothing about 1555. If you take 1619 and you subtract 1555, you will get the number 64. 64 represents 64 years in which they calculate that it took to take a black group of people from Africa and on the brutal treatment, denying them their understanding of their history, denying them the expression of it, killing of the elderly, raping and killing. It took 60 years, 64 years, for white folks to examine that they finally produced a group of black people that responded to them as niggers. It took 64 years to produce the first group of niggers. Now that's important because I want you to know that there's some significance to that that'll play out during the rest of the lecture. Why did they bring us here? They brought us here because they needed free laborers. They wanted our strong bodies, but they didn't want our mind. They wanted us to build. They wanted us to work their crops. They wanted the knowledge that Africa provided in the people that they stole. But they didn't want the memory of Africa in the people that they took here. So how could white folks gain your knowledge, then keep you physically here in your right mind, in your right understanding? You cannot enslave a human being who is knowledgeable of himself. So they took your God, they took your name, they took your history, they took your culture, and then they replaced it with what they felt they needed to provide you with, to make you a suitable, strong, ignorant of self slave. Now, where did you stay? So you didn't get any rooms to the Hilton Hotel. You didn't get any room from bed and breakfast places. You stayed on the plantation. So black people are suffering from what is called plantation psychosis. The plantation is where they brought you. The plantation is where they beat you. The plantation is where they raped our ancestors. The plantation is where they took your mind, took your memory, took everything that was black about you, and they cultivated into a system to keep your back, your legs, and your muscles strong, but your mind weak. And those who had strong minds, who did not forget, they work on you with fear. They work on you with brutality. They work on our brothers and sisters, and they made you a nigger on the plantation. What is psychosis? And I want you to, as we go through the lecture, I want you to start making some connections in terms of your self-analysis. Psychosis is a severe mental disorder in which the thoughts and emotions are so impaired that contact is lost with the external reality. Now that's kind of rough. And I don't think anybody in here or listening to this or watching this on the internet stream would volunteer without hesitation and say, I'm crazy. But we are as crazy can be when you understand our history and what has been done to us. Now that's harsh to say, but I don't think you came here for me to play games. I want you to know that whatever our conditions are, we have the power to reverse that. Many say, and I get this all the time, I don't use the word nigger. I'm not a nigger. And I don't let nobody call me a nigger. And we're very strong and adamant with that. And I believe some of them believe that. Then the more highly educated or more socially sensitive individual that would consider themselves in the intellectual class often says this, and I always get a thrill. They would say, like, I'm not a nigger, I don't call anybody niggers, and I don't like to use the word nigger. And I've learned that is not what they call you, is what you answer to. And we think we've made a very bold and intelligent statement. And then I ask them, okay, I buy that. What you answer to, Susie? What you answer to, Tommy? What's your religion? How you dress? What's your diet? And you would see that all the evidence that was ingrained on the plantation that makes us hate ourselves, you wear. We're the only people that carries the name of our enslavers. We're the only people dressed like our enslavers and put up an argument. We're the only people eat like the enslaver without understanding the importance of our diet. So we kill ourselves. We're the only people who talk black, look black, but don't act black. That is a sign that you still have, whether you offended or not, you still operate from a nigger mentality. You may not use the word nigger, but you act like a nigger. You dress like a nigger. You eat like a nigger. You name your children like a nigger. The plantation has conditioned us to be niggers. Now, why is that important? Remember what I told you about the plant? Anything that God creates, if you take it out of its natural state, you create something different, and most times you shorten the life of that natural thing. So when we act the way we act, and we have problems and we don't see the root of our problems, we don't know how to solve them. What is one of the greatest lessons that our ancestors left us? Very simple, not very complicated at all. But our ancestors says the greatest lesson that we can learn is to know thyself. Why did our ancestors say that? Because if you're an orange tree and you're acting like an apple, then you're going to try to make apple juice with yourself and you're an orange. See, if you're black, you should be thinking black, acting black, eating black, dressing black, in a society that rewards you for not being black. Listen, all the problems that we have as a people, you're going to learn that much of what I say tonight, regardless of how much of it you understand, I'm beyond the point of trying to convince people that I'm telling the truth. I tell the truth and let the truth fall where it may. There is a phenomenon that African people understand very clearly. Where there's the absence of justice, the presence of peace is negated by natural law. As long as black people can't bring justice to their own personal identity, their own existence, there could never be peace among ourselves. We have to bring justice to our own reality. A nigger has no purpose. A nigger has no use other than what a nigger was designed to be. A nigger doesn't care about reading. A nigger doesn't care about building. A nigger doesn't care about anything other than to make sure that he does not do or say anything that upsets the master who made him a nigger. So today we are a colony of niggers, some educated, so-called educated, some not so educated, and then we deal with the brothers and the sisters who are not going through some type of formal process. And at this point, I want to make something very clear. I stand here and I want to apologize. I want to apologize to all of my brothers and sisters from birth till the age of 35. I want to apologize for my generation. I want to apologize for the generation before me, and I want to apologize for the generations, 2 generations ahead of me. Apologize for what? Apologize for trying to lay the problems of the black community on our young people. Do they have problems? Yes, they do. Do I deny that they have problems? No, I don't. But a 16, 17, 18-year-old, even a 25, 30-year-old, haven't been on this earth long enough to cause the kind of problems that we have in our community. And as adults, as elders, when you look out into our community and you see our young people act as they act, you can't divorce yourself from the responsibility that those young people is a reflection of your doing or not doing. So my generation of black people, what schools did you build for them? What jobs did you produce for them? What's your role in their educational cultivating? What's your role in their spiritual development and outlook? They are a product of us not doing. And the people of my generation has to bear some responsibility, as well as those before me, that generation behind me. I want to make clear, though, I do not hold at fault those ancestors who came from the shores of Africa, who just on the mere mentioning signs of rebellion would be killed on the spot. We have to recognize that. So I hold those brothers and sisters in high esteem because they done what they had to do to survive. But from the point that we call ourselves educated, from the point in which white folks so-called ended the illegal laws of segregation and they introduced integration to us, then I hold those black folks responsible for not building on the shoulders of those brothers and sisters who died to make sure that we can continue in a path that would be healthy and productive for us as a people, politically, educationally, economically, socially, and spiritually. Integration has been the greatest silent bomb of mass destruction dropped in our community. Under integration, at the age of 14 or so, I was going into high school when integration was a talk of the town. White folk, we're going to be better. White folks say we can go to their school now. So I was approached, partly because of my little light skin. My darker skinned friend wasn't approached, but my little light skin said, we want you to go to this white school so that we can prove to them that we got good people in our community. I refused to go. I ended up at Holy Rosary, but I refused to go to any white school. At the age of 21 or 22, some of these professionals, as a child that I saw and admired, called me in one day and said to me, you know, you got potential. I like the way you talk out there. You're not afraid. But he said, and there was a group of about 10 or 11 of them, so-called pillars of the community, and said, you know, we would back you. But you got the color and you got the protection. You got the color and you got the protection that we could work with you. What it really meant, I was being introduced to Uncle Tom Class 101. They were showing me how to go along and get along. Talk about certain things, but don't mention white people. Talk about this, but don't talk about that, because that upsets white people. Well, needless to say, I wasn't a good student in Class 101 for Uncle Thomism. But it shattered me psychologically. Because I'm talking about teachers. I'm talking about professional people. I'm talking about the so-called pillars of the community. I'm talking about politicians who was grooming me or attempt to groom me to be docile. Be strong, but don't be strong in the white community. Be strong in your community. So after some time passed, I was then approached and said, listen, if you run for office, you can do a lot of good for your people. So I'm wondering what good I can do for my people in a system where I'd be the only one. That didn't fly well. My brothers and sisters, I'm saying to you in as nice a way as I can, the concept of the nigger mentality is what's hindering our progress as a people. This is at the basis of our arguments. This is at the basis of our inability to unite. This is the basis of how we run our educational places. This is the place, this is the reason why we have such a, I think, just such a destructive relationship with the school board. How do we fight consistently to try to be part of a system that is still failing us at over 50% without saying at some point in time, we need to stop this, we need to build our own schools? How can we, as a people, justify the poverty in our community, being collectively in America, create a consumer market of $1.1 trillion? The basis of that is the nigger mentality. How do we justify the mega churches in our community that produces almost $30,000 a week in some of the smaller churches? Over $1 million plus go through collection in the medium-sized church. These mega churches, if I were to tell you what it was, you wouldn't believe it. It's in the billions that come through our churches under the nigger mentality of the kind of God and spiritual understanding we've gotten off the plantation. A nigger has no purpose other than to serve the master who made him. When we see our young people kill each other, they're not killing a black boy and a black girl. They're killing a nigger. They're shooting niggers. They're robbing niggers. They're not robbing a human being. We have been dehumanized. In order for you to destroy a people or a person, you have to have some kind of rationale that you have to use to justify your destructive action. So you got to dehumanize the black man and black woman. You got to make them niggers. So today we are modern niggers because they give us an education, but they make sure you keep the nigger mentality. They'll let you work in their corporation as long as you got the nigger mentality. How many of us have said, I know I'm not the only one who hears that, sometimes when you go in places, black folks you see in charge harder on black people than white people. That's that nigger mentality at work. So you can be a doctor as long as you have that nigger mentality. You can be an accountant as long as you have that nigger mentality. You can be a nurse as long as you have that nigger mentality. You can work for the city as long as you have that nigger mentality. You can have a Martin Luther King celebration as long as the city controls it, so you can have that nigger mentality. As long as black people carry the nigger mentality, they have a place in the society of the white folks who made them a nigger. You can look at the example at Holy Rosary, the closure of Holy Rosary. We want to boo-hoo and cry. Holy Rosary closed. Well, who are you going to blame? The bishop? Who are you going to blame? Black folks who can't afford to send them to Holy Rosary? Holy Rosary in its prime day exist under the unjust laws of segregation. When the power of the economics of black people had to go to Holy Rosary if you wanted to send your school other than to a public school. And if they didn't want to go to a public school, they went to Holy Rosary. If you didn't want to go to a public school, you went to Paul Bro. Or you had to go to Henderson. You had to go here. You had to go there. So the economic power came back to the black community governed by the unjust laws of segregation. As soon as black folks were given permission to run across the other side of town, the nigger mentality kicked in. Immaculate Heart closed, Holy Rosary closed. And I was at Holy Rosary at the time when so-called prime people in this community who were successful graduated from black schools, from elementary all the way through college. Had children and sent them to St. Thomas More. Had children and sent them to Turlings. Turlings was put there to avoid white children on the north side of town from going to a black Catholic school. And now today, with the nigger mentality, you got someone heading the so-called revival of Holy Rosary who went to Turlings, whose parents made a decision to bypass Holy Rosary. And now you think you're going to get some results from that? That's a nigger mentality at work. As long as that nigger mentality controls our educational process, all we're doing is producing little niggers. How can we deniggerize? You have to first commit yourself to the reality of accepting your position. None of us in here are a complete work. All of us is a work in progress. The question is, can you do an honest self-analysis and say, damn, that's true. I might not like it. I'm not ready to look in the mirror yet, but I hear you. I'm going to work on it slowly. But I hear you. The first thing you got to do is commit to self-knowledge. How can you do that? You can listen to brothers and sisters who have given much of their time and have sacrificed much in order to bring you the truth. You can watch videos. You can do it digitally. You can do it on CD. You can read. You can go to events. There is so much about you as a black person that you don't know just on the consumption of the truth of yourself will begin to self-motivate you to deniggerize. One simple thing you can do, make a conscious effort. You don't have to tell nobody. Make a conscious effort. Take something that is black and African from your ancestors. Wear it every day. If you feel too much stress from doing that, get something that you can put in your pocket. Make a conscious effort to wear it every day, to remind you who you are and what you need to do and what you need to start the process doing. You want to clean up your language. We want to lay this on young people. All they do is cuss. All they do is nigger, nigger, nigger this, nigger that, nigger this, nigger that. Well, what are you teaching them, nigger? The young people are no more than a reflection of our lack of responsibility or our present behavior. They learn from us. The difference between my generation of young people and the generation of young people today, they're not afraid of the adults. They don't respect the elders. And God has made it that way. Because if they follow in the footsteps of some of our elders today, they are being primed for Uncle Tom 101. But they're rebellious. You don't want them to say nigger, they're going to say nigger. They don't think anything is wrong with it. Why? Because they don't know the history. They don't know who they are. In the prison system, had one young brother said to me, I said, man, you can't stay in my class using that word nigger, nigger, nigger all the time. He said, brother, I don't mean no harm. He said, I'm a nigger, my dad a nigger, my uncle nigger, everybody in my neighborhood niggers. I said, well, you might feel a little different by the time you get 30, 40 years old. Oh, brother, he said, brother Shabazz, you know, niggers in my neighborhood, we lucky if we get past 25. How do you deal with young people with the expectation of dying before 25? The condition of our young people is a direct result of our lack of responsibility and what we need to do as an adult. Clean up your language. I'll be the first one in line to tell you that the use of the word nigger is unacceptable, except in a context like this. If you're going to use the word nigger, use it in terms of trying to correct someone not to use it. You're going around here, the slave master say, well, I'm going to pass a law, they can't call you nigger, so you say, well, we're not going to say nigger, we're going to say the N-word. So they tell you, we're not going to let you say it on the radio, you say the N-word. You like, can't say it on television, you're going to say the N-word. Then they treat you like niggers. They don't treat you like the N-word, they treat you like niggers. And we fall for it. Brothers and sisters, listen. If you, and Bishop, I hope you forgive me, but I don't know how to say it other than be direct. We can't use the language like our young people are doing on the street and try to correct them from using it when they learn it from us. So if I'm going to refer to a black woman as a bitch or a whore, and we don't clean up our language, we have somehow romanticized that gutter language with ourselves. We try to romanticize and soften up nigger. Well, that's my nigger, you know? That's the term of endearment. That's what our intellectuals try to tell us, to try to relate to some of the young people. We call our sisters. Oh, well, me and my bitch going out tonight. You know, they call their sister a bitch. They call their mama a bitch. The mama call little children a bitch. You see it all in the malls when you're shopping. You pick that up, little bitch, I'll whip your ass. See, I know that I'm in the church, but I'm not in the church. I'm in a building. The church of the people. And if Pastor John filled this church, this building, with people with a nigger mentality, he still don't have a church. So I'm bringing it to you real because I want you to understand, we have to clean up our language. When we start referring to each other as my sister, my queen, my brother, my queen, my king, sir, miss. And we be respectful in our community, even when we angry. And even if we slip when we angry, if we humble enough to regroup from that and apologize, we heal and we can grow. But to shut your mind completely off from your behavior and then get mad at the young people because they make songs that degrade black women. They degrade themselves. They romanticize nigger. They talk about nigger like it's a delicatessen. You can't get nothing done or played on the radio or marketed because the society tells them the more nigger you use, the more you degrade black women, the more you degrade black community, the more you degrade yourself. You got a hot number. We can give you some money for that. Why do they go to people that don't look like us to do that? Because we don't have radio stations. We don't have television stations. We don't have the economic power to finance our children's dream. So when you come to them and try to correct them on what you perceive as a negative behavior, they tell you, nigger, please. You can't tell me nothing. You got to clean up your language. How else can we deniggerize? Now this one here is tough, because I know, well, we get to all kind of fights. You can't even drink water after we have a fight about this next topic. We have to give the white man back his religions. You got to give him back his white gods, his image of divinity. You got to give him back his white gods. You got to quit telling people lies and part truth in the Bible because you're afraid your people are going to get upset. They're not coming anyway. And if they do come and they fill up the church, all you're doing is sanctifying niggerism. That's what you're doing. But you yourself got to commit yourself to telling the truth. You got to give the white man back his holidays. You can't get around that. You want to deniggerize? Give the white man back his holidays. You start with the 4th of July. The 4th of July, we know is a lie. That's the independence of white people. Their separation from the British Empire. 13 little colonies separated from the British Empire. And say, see you later. 13 little colonies say, I don't like the way you treat me. You're not going to tax me on my niggers. And I'm gone. So they form what is called the United States. And we celebrate that action, that historical event, where we fought on both sides of that Revolutionary War, and both sides lied to us, said, you help us beat the British, we're going to free you after the war. The British said, look, you help us beat the British, we're going to free you after the war. Britain done a little bit better, but the United States put black folks, we were waist deep into slavery when the war started. We were neck deep after the war started. And we celebrate the 4th of July. Now, there's a reason for you to celebrate the 4th of July. It is your independence, but not based on that date. But I'm not sure you're ready to hear that. But you do have an Independence Day, and it is on the 4th of July, but it's not no 1776. But you're not ready to hear that, so I'm not going to go there tonight, because that's going to be a little too deep for some of you in terms religiously. But the 4th of July, what do? We go to the park. We set up barbecue. We get our mouth all greasy. We buy food from stores we don't own. We buy liquor from stores we don't own, from people that we don't produce it. We buy bread. We buy everything we need. For what? A picnic. We either go to the park or we set up a picnic in our backyard. Not knowing. Do you know historically where the word picnic comes from? White folks described that word picnic when they were saying, let's go pick a nigger. So they pick a nigger and they brought him in the backyard, they brought him down the street, they hung him or burned him. And they made a big festival, brought all the children. That's where the word picnic comes from, pick a nigger. So how do we celebrate this holiday? Because you see, you have to understand that holidays are not just no casual occasions. Holiday is built in those holidays emotions, commitments. You're expressing or projecting a value system that you say is good, and you're passing it on from one generation to the other. That's what holidays are. And then they slip us right into Thanksgiving. Again, we go to the store, we buy a turkey, we get all kind of liquor we want, we get full, drunk, and then we start shooting up each other. And we say, It's because we're giving thanks to God. You ain't giving thanks to God. You're celebrating with white folks the slaughter of the Native Americans. Black folks never took a day to thank God. They thank God 365 days of the year. They woke up in the morning and they said, thank you, God, for waking me up. They went to bed at night. They said, bless me, God. Bless me, Creator, that I may have a restful sleep and do your service in the morning. They sell you over $1 billion worth of Thanksgiving cards. They just start putting some little black pictures on some of the Thanksgiving cards and the Christmas cards, and you buy them because your nigger mentality is at work. So they please you, well, I want some black Christmas card. You shouldn't want black Christmas, period. But you buy the cards, you buy the food, and you celebrate the slaughter of white people, the slaughter by white people of the Native Americans. Then they slip you right into Christmas, and then they call the day after Thanksgiving Black Friday. Why do you think they call it Black Friday? They call it Black Friday because that's the time they mark as the beginning, the starting point. They go from Christmas to Easter to determine how strong the economic market is. And you're the biggest consumer. You buy all these Christmas presents and you don't own nothing. That's why they call it Black Friday. So you go into Christmas and they tell you some baby was born without the aid of a man. And you believe it. The man of 2,000 years ago is not unclear to me. That man that most of us know as Jesus is a revolutionary. Knowing his mind, knowing his business, knowing his practice, knowing what he died for can revive you, can strengthen you. But if you study the version of that man that white folks gave you, you just a holy nigger. You just a sanctified, song singing, hallelujah, rapping Negro. And you have no basis to justify your position. Then they slide you right into Easter. And then we go into Easter, and some of us so pompous and pious in the church about our dress and how we look and all that, but then you celebrate a big sex holiday. That's all Easter is. It's from a spring god named Esther. During the dead of winter, everything died. In the spring, things come alive. So these dumb pagan white folks, they honored this pagan god called Esther, and they made her the fertility god. And what did they do? They took naked women naked virgins from their community, paint them up. That's your Easter egg that you be covering. You see? And then they let them loose, and they let the men go find them. So if you find them, you can break an egg, meaning that you got a virgin. That's the ritual. It has nothing to do with that man 2,000 years ago. You want to believe that? And they tell you, well, you need to celebrate Easter because Jesus died on the cross for us. He died at Calvary. Well, if Jesus died 2,000 years ago and he paid a price with his life for us to be free, then white folks took us into slavery 450 years ago. Somebody forgot to tell white people why he died. See, something is wrong with the logic. And then in the next sentence, we'll say, God is all-knowing. God is good. God is powerful. And then you worship an characteristic that they give you about God that make God sound like an idiot. Now, I know that's tough to handle. But I'm telling you, we're at a time in our history, in biblical history, you can't play with this no more. You don't need no legislation. You don't need nobody voting. You just need to stop practicing it. Just stop it. You don't have to have no intellectual conversation about it. We don't have to have no spiritual arguments about it. Just stop it. Go check out what I'm telling you. Just stop it. I don't want to go to no Easter egg hunt. I don't want to go to no Christmas dance. I don't want no Christmas present. Don't invite me to your 4th of July barbecue. We got days, we got people, we got heroes, we got sheroes. We got significant events in our history that we can adapt for ourselves if we lift ourselves from that nigger mentality. Instead of Christmas, why not do Kwanzaa? See? Instead of Thanksgiving, why don't we call some type of community love fest for our people? Instead of the 4th of July, let's have some type of Independence Day around Juneteenth. Easter, that's a tough one. Just have a spring festival. Celebrate the changing of the seasons. But you don't, as long as the church is sanctified, glorified, the craziness in our people with these holidays, the chain of niggerism will never be broken. And it affects you economically. It affects you politically. Listen, Juneteenth is celebrated here and is sponsored by the city. Martin Luther King celebration is celebrated here and is sponsored by the city. The same city is taking your tax dollars and making you crazy with Cajun Acadiana. They're producing self-hatred. They don't mind you celebrating Dr. King as long as you don't go past 1965. You start talking about or setting up a celebration of Dr. King from the middle of 65 to 68, you ain't getting no monies from the city. You celebrate Juneteenth from the collective energy of black people, talking about what Juneteenth really is about, you ain't getting no money from the city. Because niggers got to act like niggers. And they got to make sure that they don't upset the nigger maker. You have to know this. Listen, the root cause of our problem as a people is engineered self-hatred. Like the plant, if you don't come back to your natural selves, if you don't start the process of thinking differently, acting differently. Listen, I don't expect anybody from one lecture to get up here and start changing and thinking that somehow you're going to be blacker tomorrow. I'm saying if it's a start, if you start doing some self-analysis and recognize that the way you are, and if you keep maintaining that path, you're going to find yourself in a very, very difficult position to justify your existence. Because anything that God creates, if it does not meet its purpose on earth in terms of the creation design, then you nullify your right to exist. Black folks will never be economically, educationally, and socially independent and well-being if they continue to move about with this nigger mentality. Now listen, we get tricked with words. You look at any protest and we say we want freedom, justice, and equality. What you want? Freedom, justice, and equality. And we got freedom this and freedom that. The nigger maker make you think you're getting freedom because he knows how to play on words. The white man doesn't want you to have freedom, but he's going to give you a facsimile of what you interpret as freedom that he designs for you. He gives you liberties. I want you to hear me good. The white man passed laws or encourage you to fight for liberties, not freedom. You see, freedom comes without the external control and pressure. You do what you want. Your mama give you liberties when you're 14-year-old, and she tells you, okay, you can go to the football game, right, but you better be in by 9 o'clock. If you come in after 9 o'clock, then I'm going to pull those liberties from you and you won't be able to go to the football game next weekend. That's liberties. Because liberties mean that you do what you want to do, but at the guideline and structure of external forces that guide you and tells you what to do. White folks are afraid of free-thinking people because free-thinking people don't need the external force. They don't follow the dictates of anything external. They follow the truth. They speak the truth. When you're free, you scare white people. When you're free to think like a black man or black woman, you scare white people. When you're free to dress like your black and African ancestors, you scare white people. Their market falls when you say, well, hey, listen, we're dying of high blood pressure. We're dying of diabetes. We're dying of all kinds of things. We catch more strokes than strokes. We catch all kind of disease. We don't know where it's coming from. And you don't check your diet? White folks know what your diet's supposed to be. But if you eat your diet, their food market is in trouble. So they feed you poison through the food. Then they get you committed on medicine that you can't afford, and then you don't know what you're taking most of the time. The medicine you take sometimes addresses one thing and creates 2 more problems. All of us have been affected by that. I go to funerals and I get depressed when I go to funerals, not because the person passed, or not just because the person passed, but when we go to the repast, everything that killed the person that's in the coffin, they're serving. For the repast, I asked somebody last funeral I went to, I said, is it against the law to have some fruit and vegetables? So we have to have some realistic self-analysis that we need to accept for ourselves. Now, you don't have to tell nobody. You don't have to talk to nobody. Just go in the room, look in the mirror, and say, hey, am I taking care of you? What can I do different? How can I improve? If the nigger mentality controls you, you're going to say something like, I eat healthy. Takuna crazy, ain't no doctor. I might be crazy, and I'm certainly not a doctor, but I guarantee you that if you're not giving your body what it needs naturally, you're shortening your own life. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us this in a very simple way. He said, every time you pick up something and you want to put it in your mouth, whether it's to eat or to drink, you're either adding to your life or you're taking from your life. Because the natural laws that governs your body will not change. You can only go along with it and extend your life, or you can rebel against it and you sentence your own self to death. The nigger mentality won't allow you to think that way. Brothers and sisters, we have to reevaluate the value of the black woman, the black man, and the black child, and our black family. We cannot treat our women or our black family as a whole from a nigger mentality. Listen, that black woman is so important. She's been destroyed on the plantation because the white man who made you out of a nigger said, how do you control a nigger? The best way to control a nigger is to control him before he's born. How do you do that, Mr. Nigger? You do that by affecting the black woman. Because what she sees, what she thinks, what she do, what you deny her, what she pleasures, what hurts her, what she's confused about, what she's stressed about, has an impact on that which is in her womb. A woman has the ability to make a god or make a devil or make a chump. No matter how tough we think we are as men, that woman is the only one has been given the power to recreate life. We drop a seed, that's it. But it's that woman who has to be the nurturer. That woman is the one who has to carry it. That woman is the one who has to be conscious of her diet. That woman is the one who's got to be conscious of her thought. That woman is the one who has to make a commitment and say, I know what's in my womb, and I know my role and my responsibility, and I know my power because I'm not a plantation nigger. I'm breaking away from this plantation psychosis. So I'm going to eat right, think right. The words, the actions of a mother impacts what comes out of her womb. And we can talk all we want, brothers, but that woman is the first guide, the first teacher. And she doesn't give birth just to boys. She gives birth to both male and female. So the burden for that woman to know who she is important to the development and the transformation that our black families must make in order for us to be deniggerized. We have to look at this sincerely. We can't have the attitude that the white boy gives us. Now, I don't know where you are, and I don't want to know where you are in terms of abortion. I can only tell you this. Socially, it's become a destructive tool that the white man geared toward us. Here you got black women, for social reasons or for economic reasons, so quick to abort a child. And that's another hot topic. Oh, we get on, I got a right to use my body. Yeah, you got a right to use your body, you know? But if you're crazy and you're destroying your body, you're destroying life as well as in you. Now, what I have an issue with, when I hear both sides of the issues, and I certainly respect women to be intelligent enough to make decisions about their own body. And I don't think putting it in the hands of white boys in the institution is the answer. But I can tell you this, knowing your history, black woman, when your ancestors, your mothers and fathers, your mothers, great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers were raped by the slave master, you suck it up and you rear that child. Some of the great men and women in our past come from that relationship. I'm not saying that you need to accept anything and in times of rape that you shouldn't consider aborting. I think the woman should have the right over her own body and make her own decision. I'm saying get your mind straight before you make a decision. Don't make a decision like that coming with a nigger mentality. Get your mind straight. Understand what your ancestors have done. Understand how your ancestors endured. Some of the greatest men and women in our past have come from relationships that you would not be apt to say, this is how I want to bring a child into the world. So before you do that, understand, get yourself right as a clear thinking black woman. And if that's your decision, that's your decision. But you can't make it as a slave. You can't make it as a nigger. You got to make it as a concerned, conscientious black woman, because black women are strong. Without the black woman, we never would have made it, black men. Now, the black man, you can't not reevaluate your position in the family. Most black men, under this nigger mentality, most black men go to work at 8 o'clock, those of us who have a job. Go to work at 8 o'clock. They convert to a board from 8 to 5 because they got to do what they got to do to stay on the job. Why? Because we're not producing jobs for ourselves. We're not thinking about manufacturing. We're not thinking about doing something for ourselves. So we go on the plantation of the white man, and he converts you to a bar from 8 to 5. You're overworked, you're underpaid, you're misused, people pass you up, unjustly. You don't get the promotions that you get, but you suck it up because you say, well, I got a wife and a family I need to take care of. Justifying, not standing up like a black man. Because you don't know how to deniggerize. They're not going to respect you because you do that. And then you come home at 5. You're too embarrassed to tell your wife. You're too embarrassed to tell your children. So you get together at happy hour, and it's interesting. Everybody that go to happy hour most of the time is unhappy. You see? So you get with people with like minds, like experiences, and you go there and you talk about it, and then you drink about it, then you come back home and give your wife hell. You ain't got time for your children. You're frustrated with your children, and you never say anything. And then the stress, the mental, and the physical ailments begin to pile up. That's because you're caught into a nigger mentality. You're not free. The white man gave you liberties. As long as you do what I want you to do, you can do this. You can run my business, but make sure that nigger mentality is up front. You can create this for yourself as long as you have a format that I can see that the nigger mentality is still at play. You can become a politician. You become president of the United States as long as I see that nigger mentality is at work. Now, a lot of us don't like to say that. Oh, Obama was going to say, what did Obama do? Obama is as intelligent as he is and a good person. He created at least 3 laws. 3 laws supporting the gay and lesbian community. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have been, but he never created one law to protect black people from the historical genocide. He could have initiated. He could have told his Justice Department, I want a national investigation on what can be done about the atrocities of slavery. He could have done that, but he couldn't even utter the word reparations because he was extended liberties as a president. He wasn't free. Meaning well and doing well, just not cutting it today. Listen, I'm going to shut down in a minute. So if you got some questions, we can deal with that. Brothers and sisters, I can't say this forcefully enough. I talk about the mother and I talk about the father, the man. Your actions as mother and father, as male and female, procreating, making children, is going to determine what kind of child you produce, what kind of child you're going to rear. Sending our children with the hope that if they get a degree, that they're going to make it in this world, and they don't have common sense to blow their nose and tie their shoes because they have no skills. You're preparing them for a world and a market that has no use for them. Get your education. Tell them the truth. They can sort out what's garbage and what's not, but teach them a skill. They got to be able to work with their hands. A college degree will get you recognized on paper. A skill with your hands will feed you and feed your people. the kind of children we produce depends largely on our ability to produce children in a free mind, with a free state of being. Strong parents produce strong children. We can't blame our children for what we have failed to do. A man must demonstrate three things. A man is a provider, a protector, and a producer. Whether he tells you that, whether he knows that, whether he believes that, you watch the deterioration of a man if he can't provide, if he can't protect, if he can't produce, or if he can't do one of the two. The nature of a man is challenged. See, the nature of a man is challenged when he can't do those three things, or can only do two out of the three, or can do one out of the three. He won't tell you. He'll just fester inside. And oftentimes that anger come back at you, woman. Come back on you, child. When he's not a provider, a protector, and a producer. A woman by nature is a provider, a protector, a producer, and a nurturer. Most of our black women today, they're more in the business of trying to prove they can outman a man. Because you're operating on a nigger mentality given to you by your nigger maker European. You want to know how you make a nigger? That's the topic, right? The making of a nigger. Ain't no need me talking this, and then you can't see this in real life circumstances and situations. So when a woman doesn't know how to nurture, and I mean nurture a child, nurture her husband, nurture the circumstances around her, that woman, brother, is smarter than we ever could be. God made her that way. A woman who understands the real responsibility of nurturing, she knows how to cook and she knows what to feed you. Your best hospital is your kitchen. Your best doctor is the one who's cooking for you in your kitchen. But today, the European paradigm for our existence tells you that's not important. Matter of fact, they got you fighting about women's lib as though you're some part of that. The women's lib is not for you. First of all, women's lib is white folks trying to get back, white women trying to get back at white men. You trying to get with your black man. What you going to liberate yourself from? He's not around now. So how are you going to be involved with women's lib because you want to free yourself from the oppression of your man and you ain't got no man? You got more black single households in America now than any other time in history. You didn't even have that in slavery. The man made sure he took care of you. Even if the white man was raping you at night, he still jumped the broom with you and took care of you. And you took care of him. Even if you work in the house, you stole food out the house and you made sure your children and your husband had something to eat. Even if it was hog maul and pork butt and all that other stuff. He gave you something. Ham hocks and all that other stuff. Okay? She made sure you got something to eat. Because she's a nurturer by nature. And this man who made black folks a nigger recognized that if he can destroy the relationship between the black man and black woman, that's not going to deter their need to be sexually involved. So they're going to create the kind of niggers, the little nigglets they call them, that we can control. Now I know this is this is kind of harsh. I don't mean to be, but I need to get something out of my bag. This is a reality that may not be pleasant for us to hear. But I'm not here to try to tell you what is pleasant. I am committed as a free-thinking black man, as a free-acting black man, to tell you that the white man's time to rule under this form of white supremacy, this form of colonialism, is over. You want to look at it historically? You can do that. You want to look at it biblically? You can do that. And I'm telling you that his time is up. His time's been up since 1914. He's been on the decline ever since. That's why you have what you have today. If you don't believe anything else, you think this extreme weather that we're having is not having an impact on his world, his system, his corporation, his money, his ability to rule, his ability to control other worlds? Right now, the weakest country is bold enough to tell the United States, don't bother me. You come with all your weapons. America is losing its standing in the world. The hypocrisy of the United States is being exposed. You get mad at Trump if you want, but Trump didn't get in there by himself. Trump is just exposing what America was all about. America always operated from the toilet when it came to us. Trump just told you where the toilet was. They just kept it behind closed doors. Nothing. Know your history. There is nothing Trump can do now to you that we have not experienced and came through successfully. Not a thing. If he continued to mess things up, his white folks going to be jumping out the window, not us. Or those Negroes who don't know they're black, who think because white world fall, their world is falling. You better come out of her. Listen, let me close with this quick reading from Brother Asa Hilliard. All what I'm saying to you, I may be saying it a little different. I may be saying it with a little different style, but none of this is new. We got great black men and women try to tell us this for years. Asa Hilliard put it this way. He said, why is it that black people do not work together in unity? Our impaired condition is due to a long-term miseducation process, one that was not of our own making. It should be clear that the remedy for this melee is a unilateral mental declaration of independence. We must conduct our own critique of our own mental diet. We must act as a designer of our own future, based upon a careful and deep study to find the truth about ourselves and about the world we must establish for our own priorities. No person or group outside of our own is likely to see our need for collective rebirth of consciousness. Even if they did, they would be totally incapable of acting to stimulate us to take control through independent thought and action. In your thinking and planning, consider the following 10 things which Africans, Americans, or blacks have either surrendered or lost. Consider these things carefully and realize that they account for our overall lack of sensitivity and sense of unity and direction. 1, we lost our names. The first step toward disorientation is to surrender your name. 2, we have surrendered our way of life, culture. We have stopped speaking the language we knew and have stopped behaving as African people behave. We have lost our way of doing things, and we have adopted the ways of a people unlike ourselves. 3, we have lost our appetite because we have lost our names and our culture. Even when those among us recreate culture and present it to us, we no longer have an appetite for it. We have a greater appetite for the culture of a people other than ourselves. 4, we have a general loss of memory. Few of us can tell the story of our people without beginning it with slavery. It is as if slavery was the only thing that happened to African people. 5, we have created false memories. Not only have we lost the true memory of African people, we have now lost a host of other memories which are totally removed from the truth. Not only are our memories of African people untruthful, but the memories we have of Europeans are also untruthful as well. In recreating the story, we are not talking about a black history lesson, we are talking about a world history lesson. African people have a major part to play in the creation of the world as we know it. We populated the world as we know it. We populated the world and we presented it with its first recorded culture. 6, we lost our land. It now seems as if we no longer have an appetite for land. We lost our land in Africa, and Africans in the diaspora are losing what little land they once held. Anytime you lose your more on the land, you lose your capacity to protect your possessions. 7, we have lost our independent production capacity. We have become consumers rather than producers. It is a shame that we don't even produce something as simple as a natural comb. We have to purchase combs that are made as far away as Korea. Also, anybody should be able to make anything as simple as a simple piece of plastic. 8, we have lost independent control of ourselves. We have little or no control over our educational process, our economic situation, our communications, or our politics. 9, we have lost sensitivity. We have lost the ability to perceive when people are doing things to us which are detrimental. We accept inaccurate perceptions without criticism. And 10, as a cumulative result to all of these things, we have lost our solidarity, our unity. When we lost our unity, we lost our political advantage, our economic advantage, and even our mental orientation. We lost a sense of self and a clear sense of belonging. We lost a clear sense of wholeness, continuity, and purpose. There is no amount of information alone that can correct all these problems that I have identified. But as a large part of what we must do is to get our memories back intact and regain our orientation. Only then will all the other things be possible. That's Brother Asa Hilliard. Now, brothers and sisters, I know that there's a whole lot of other things that we could say, but I'm not going to say it because it's like teaching someone mechanics. They have the inspiration to be a mechanic, but they don't know nothing yet. The mechanic shop is open for you if you obtain a skill. Everything else that we're talking about starts with you committing personally that you're going to deniggerize. Then we can have meetings. Then we can organize. Then we can meet. We can talk about economics. We can talk about the political issues in the community. We can talk about how we're going to make things better in our community. How are we going to do this? How are you going to sit around the table with a bunch of Negroes, nigger-thinking people, white folk protectors, and talk about you want to do something good for the black community? Even though your intentions are good, it can't happen. Arguments ensue every time. Why do you think most white folks and most black folks who on that nigger thinking level get nervous when I come to a meeting? They can't predict what I'm going to say because I'm free. I don't change because white folks sitting in the room. I don't change if you put a camera on me. I don't change if I'm in the radio station. I'm free thinking. I'm not looking for your liberties to give me permission to be free. That's what I'm saying, brothers and sisters, that the making of a nigger has to be fully understood, and we have to go through a process to destroy that status. You weren't made a nigger overnight. You weren't made a nigger on a weekend. It's a process. This is the very last thing I want you to know. Nigger, like a sheep, is not a natural creation. I'm going to say that again. Nigger, like a sheep, is not a natural creation. There is no sheepdog. You understand? A nigger, like a sheepdog, pardon me, like a sheepdog is not a natural creation. But the both of them are real. Our history tells us that they call us niggers and are related to a horrible history. And if we accept that, we're just like the sheepdog, who is also a reality. But how does a sheepdog come into existence? The sheep herder, who wants a sheepdog? When a dog has puppies, they take the puppies right off the mother's nipple. And they take that dog, they find a fertile sheep, and they put that puppy on the sheep. So that dog suckles off the sheep. He's not allowed to associate with any dogs anymore. So the dog sucks the milk from the sheep. He smells the sheep. He hangs with the sheep. He grows up looking like a dog, but he grows up using all his dog talents to protect the sheep. That dog will fight other dogs. That dog will growl at other dogs. And that sheep herder places a value on that dog depending on how successful he is in making that dog know that he's not a dog. If that dog growls out one day and bites one of the sheep, then that's not a good sheepdog. That dog realizes he's a dog. But if that dog fights other dogs, even gives his life to a wolf who might be threatening the sheep, that's a good sheepdog. And the sheep herder pats that dog on the head, feeds that dog well. But that's how you are, black people. White folks took you from the shores of Africa, had you sucking on their economic system, had you suckled off of their historical understanding of history. You wasn't suckling off the natural breast of your mothers and your ancestors. You were suckling off the breasts of white folks who gave you a history, gave you your name, gave you everything to make you crazy and make you a nigger so that they can make you a better slave. And as soon as they detect one or two that pops up from the community that the process didn't take, that's your leaders. That's the ones they kill. That's the one they isolate. That's the one they make you go after. Just like they make the sheepdog. So we have to know this. A nigger, like a sheepdog, is not a natural phenomenon. It's a process. It's a process. It's a byproduct of what white folks done to the sheepdog, to the dog, and what white folks done to us. So I say to you, brothers and sisters, in all candor, you can't get away from this. If you were black and African yesterday, you're certainly black and African today. And unless you do something dumb and stupid, you're going to be black and African tomorrow. So you might as well learn to love your black and African self and be strong. Assalamu alaikum. Any questions?
Yes, so this was absolutely dynamite. I've heard this many years ago before, and I was able to still learn today, so definitely want to thank you for your boldness to bring this. But we definitely want to use, ask any questions, because that's what this is all about, learning and, making the necessary changes.
You can ask, I'm going to be nice.
To be a stronger people. And he's absolutely right. We never know, ever, ever what he's going to say. So, any questions, please?
But how people go about, I'm sure a lot in Africa are
let's have a community conference here based on the African name. Those who want to change your name, know about an African name, how you go through the process, the importance of it, let's do it here. Let's do something like that. Yeah, something like that. But certainly, that's a start. And the fact that I think you got more folks today, more black folks today inquiring about that. The problem is that, you know, they have to get over the fear that, and they don't understand it. They know, they understand it. Logically, they're seeing it. Well, that makes sense. But to take on an African name and then go back at work or to deal with your family, it's pressure. You see, it's pressure. You know, they'll certainly have to deal with that successfully. But you don't have to convince anybody else. You just have to be true about yourself. Sister, you had a question?
Yes, I wanted to ask you with the making of a nigger and with the birth of a nation, when they took it and done that particular move, the white woman, she blew herself off, she killed herself before she was going to allegedly be raped by a black man, and which we all know is a complete lie. How is it today that we could kind of like put not just consciousness in our black men to be with their black women, but what you mentioned about the provider, the protector, and the producer? How can we go about trying to enhance that in our black men, conservative black men?
Sister, that is a real challenge. We got to get black men in small groups. We got to get them in big groups wherever we can get them. And the truth is, we got to tell them the truth. I'm going to tell you the biggest hindrance to that. The black churches in the community are not serving us well. The black churches in the community, most of the churches are filled with black women. Very few men go. The few men that do go, most of them don't want to be strong men in the first place, because when they hear the gospel of how it's being taught, how to submit to things you don't even understand, you got to submit to something you haven't even done, it causes a psychological barrier that make black men not want to come together and deal with certain things. I can tell you that your individual growth as a black woman is going to demand that a man act and think a certain way. If we set up centers in our black churches, which I know is not going to happen on a large scale, but certainly we can do it here at Imani. We can have men's night. We can invite them over. We can have women's night. We can invite them over. Not to join the church, but to join a community of common sense for self-analysis. You see, talk about real things. You see, help them make the transition. Most black men that are like that don't realize they're like that. If we knew our history, we wouldn't have 72% of black millionaires that are athletes marrying white women. We wouldn't have 70% of basketball players who are millionaires marrying white women, because not only we wouldn't get into the color game, but we would understand the full ramifications of what a marital situation brings. So that means if 72% of football players are marrying white women, and we know the average, you know, that 7-year itch in the marriage is usually split, means the economy goes with that marriage. That means if she have 2 children, 3 children, she don't mind laying down there, because she's going to be set up for life just by having 2 children. Tiger Woods situation, then she go marry her high school sweetheart. But she left with $20 million plus, okay? So if we understood the economics of it, if black men understood what black women put up with us and our state of craziness, and they were there, they would think twice about disrespecting the black woman. It's not against the white woman, it's for your black woman. You see, we would think that something is wrong with that if we saw a duck trying to hook up with a chicken. They say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. They both fowls. But you ain't going to catch a chicken going heads over a duck. It's against their nature. You see, so when 40% of our athletes, I mean, it's 72% of our black athletes that are millionaires going to marry white women, not only do you have the economics to deal with, the stigma of being married in a so-called, what they call now, it's a mixed marriage or interracial marriage, you also have a black man who's been defamed. A black man who's got a white woman, you can't talk to him about no black issues. Ain't gonna happen. He's not gonna bring his children up to be conscious and black. You know, all of a sudden we want to love everybody. Start with your enemy before you love yourself. So you have a deterioration there. You see, now when a white woman, you know, benefits from it all, you have to ask yourself, if the black man knew that the white woman is his modern day kryptonite, you think that he would make those kind of intelligent decisions, that he would be careful. Doesn't mean you go around hating people, because I think love transcends anything. But that's not love. That comes from the plantation. That comes from the fact that you want the best thing. Now you're a millionaire. You want the best thing. What's the best thing? A white woman. Now here this black woman been with you and you was crazy, dumb, and had no money. You look at your mama, and most psychologists will tell you most men marry characteristics of their mother. And most daughters marry characteristics of their father. Here your mother is, you know, blue-black, and you're going to get Miss Snow White to marry. Something's wrong with that. See, that's not love. That's a plantation. That's plantation psychosis he's suffering from, because on the plantation, black men was used as studs. You see, and then some of them say, well, I'm gonna get a white woman because they rape our black women. Oh, shut up, Negro. You're not doing it for that. You're doing it for that because you think that white skin gonna get you into heaven. We can make it complicated, but that's what it amounts to. And he will, just like that sheepdog, he will bite anybody who tells him something about his white woman. And then not only that, if he gets involved in anything in the black community, he's immediately questioned. How sincere is he? He may be very sincere, you know, but how sincere is he? There's always going to be a question. His effectiveness is always going to be questioned, even if he's sincere. I think Attorney White in Baton Rouge, I know you know him, you're not going to find anybody speaking more articulate about reparations, especially, than Attorney White, and on black issues. But he married a white woman. And she was very nice and very pleasant. But you know what she had to do to allow him to be able to be at least accepted after about 10 years? She went sit in the corner. She wouldn't come to meetings at all. Because soon they saw his white wife, boom, question mark in his head, in their head. That's right. Yes. Yeah, he passed. I didn't know that. Yeah, peace be upon him. But you know, but you talk about somebody who was pleasant, talk about somebody who put his resources into black causes, you know, and his wife was very pleasant. But she had to stay in the background for him to be effective. You see? He didn't try to fight nobody and didn't try to change nobody's mind. He just knew the realistic ramifications of what he was into. And he accepted it. She accepted it. But that's not most cases. You see, so that's why the woman is the black man's kryptonite. And it's a disrespect to the black woman for all she has done and all she has sacrificed for his well-being.
I want to say, I think you remember this time when we were at Kentucky Games, and this young black male came, and that's something that resonated really deep with me, because I never had to learn how to be black, but he said, quote unquote, I'm learning how to be a black man. So what would be something simple for a person, you know, watching my Facebook or
Yeah, we have to deniggerize. That's all it is to it. We have to deniggerize. And one of the things you can do, I mean, what is something you can do privately? Look, quit getting caught up in religious titles, okay? You want something direct and real? Read the work of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Listen to Minister Farrakhan. Listen to Asa Hilliard. Pick up. You don't want to read? You got DVDs and digital on Malcolm. Listen to Brother Omar. You know, we got a host of black liberators out there that are speaking the truth. These people are not going to, you're not going to be seeing them on Channel 10, Channel 3, or any of the local media. You're not going to have them at your Martin Luther King celebration getting an award. That's not the kind of people that's going to be there. The ones that they're going to give an award to is the ones that they are going to use as a model to show them that this is a good nigger. That's how you get ahead. This is a progressive nigger. That's how you get ahead. And when I start seeing black folks get these awards in the community, I know who my enemy is. With a few exceptions, I know who my enemy is. You see, because it has never failed. White folks divide and conquer that way. Now, many of us, and I make a distinction, many of us accept those awards sincerely, not knowing, and they mean well. But some of them know the psychic of white people, and they think they're getting over. And then they represent themselves as our leaders. Listen, nowhere else, no other group of people, and I know this is sensitive to some people, but no other group of people will go in a community like this with this Cajun Acadiana thing with the history that it is, Cajun being the historical slur word for nigger. Nowhere, no other group of people will hire somebody, you know, in the black community and make them director of the nigger dome, see, and then make that white boy director of the nigger dome. He becomes a model for little white children, and he pushes super niggerism. You see, white folks know the word. They don't mind you being a nigger, but they're not going to allow you to teach their children to be a nigger. You see, so nowhere in the world that if that white boy quits, or the white boy resigns, or the white boy gets fired, that he could come back to the black community and represent the white community, as the head white boy in the community as a leader. Nowhere in this community but this one. You see, and when black folks that are free say something about that, it's tension. Yeah, you're not invited. I don't get told about meetings, you know, and I understand that. But why would I want to sit around a table talking Negro stuff? We got to talk freedom. And you're not going to get it from people who have proven themselves to be defectors of the interests of black people. Now, that doesn't mean the person is bad. It just simply means we got to recognize it for what it is. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
And we're bringing the Emancipation Circle,
Yes.
which is going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you talked about today,
Right.
but in a different aspect, which is
Well,
kind of reversing.
The Emancipation Circle is going to involve all who comes. We sit in a circle and you really speak your mind. You won't be lectured to.
Right.
You'll actually be demonstrating for the group that is there, if you wish to, your concerns. And we look for a resolve or to help you psychologically work through those concerns.
Right.
You
So
see?
that's coming on August the 17th at 5:30. Should be exciting. Also, Kwanzaa is in just a few months, and we plan to do Kwanzaa at Harambe on the 28th of December. We're excited about that. We have a couple of pop-up shops that's happening, so if you got any vendors out there, you know, people who make handcraft things or whatnot, you're welcome. Give me a call, 337-704-8884, or contact the church, Imani Temple number 49. Give you an opportunity to showcase your products. What else? I think that's about it. So definitely want to thank you for tuning in. Brother Takuna, do you want to do the closing prayer?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, Brother Jay, I want to thank you for being here and capturing it, We appreciate it.
Yes, he's a long-time standing history recorder.
Yes.
And he's more valuable to the black community than most of us know and can appreciate right now. But time will prove your worth, brother. Bow our heads. Oh, powerful and merciful God, we thank you for these moments of gathering our thoughts and sharing with one another, and hope that the results of this meeting will make us all better persons. We ask that you allow us the strength to commit to change for good, not based on politics, not based on personality, not based on money or lack of it, but based on the fact that it is right, and we must be right and good and whole for us to be our beautiful black and African self. O powerful and merciful God, soothe our internal wounds and make clear our conflicts. Purify our thoughts and motives, that we may be righteous in all that we do and say. We ask this of you as humble servants, seeking to be just and right in all our ways. May we all have a safe trip home, and thank Bishop John for exposing this information through Imani Temple. Imani Temple is one of those black institutions that we have an opportunity to cultivate. If you don't like what Imani Temple is doing, be here and help change it. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Ashe. Thanks everybody again for